The hotel security footage doesn't lie, but I wish to God it did. I'm Alex Renner, 43 years old, senior project manager for Hartwell Construction, and until 3 hours ago, I thought I had a decent marriage. Not perfect, hell, nothing ever is, but decent enough. Emily worked her way up to HR director at Meridian Tech. We had our routines, our Friday night dinners, our weekend projects around the house. Sure, she'd been distant lately, working late more often, but I figured it was job stress. The tech industry is cutthroat, especially for women trying to climb the ladder. I should have known better when she started buying lingerie that never made it to our bedroom. The call came at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Victor Kowalski, head of security at the Grand View Hotel downtown, his gruff, ex-cop voice cutting through the static. "Alex, you need to get down here. It's about Emily." I froze. What happened? Is she hurt? "Just get down here, man. Room 412. And Alex, you're going to want to see this alone first. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The drive through the rain-soaked streets of Portland felt like swimming through molasses. Every red light stretched into eternity. The Grand View Hotel loomed ahead, its Art Deco facade gleaming wet under the streetlights. I'd driven past it 1,000 times, never imagining I'd be racing there in the middle of the night because of my wife. Victor met me in the lobby, his weathered face grim. We'd known each other since high school. He'd been the tough kid who had my back when the bullies came around, and I'd helped him with his math homework. 25 years later, he still looked like he could bench press a Buick. "Vic, what the hell is going on?" He handed me a manila envelope. Security cameras picked up a disturbance in 412 around 10:30. Loud noises, shouting. When we went to check, he paused, his jaw working. "Look, Alex, I've been doing this job for 8 years. I've seen cheating spouses, drug deals, prostitutes, you name it. But this is different." "Different how?" "Because it's your wife and your brother." The words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. Zach, my younger brother, the golden child, the one who always landed on his feet, the one who sold luxury cars and wore 1,000 suits and had never met a mirror he didn't love. "You're sure?" Victor nodded toward the elevator. "See for yourself, but Alex, they're still up there." The elevator ride to the 4th floor felt like descending into hell. My hands shook as I fumbled with the master key Victor had given me. The hallway was empty, eerily quiet, except for the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant rumble of traffic below. Room 412. I pressed my ear to the door and heard muffled voices. Emily's laugh, the one she used to save for me. My stomach churned as I slid the keycard and pushed open the door. The scene that greeted me will be burned into my retinas until the day I die. Emily was straddling my brother on the king-sized bed, her back to me, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders. She was completely naked, and so was he. The room riot of intimacy and expensive wine. Their clothes were scattered across the floor like confetti after a particularly twisted celebration. "Oh God, Zach," Emily moaned, grinding against him. "Alex would die if he knew how good you make me feel." Zach's hands gripped her hips, his wedding ring, the one that matched mine, catching the lamplight. "Forget about Alex. He's too busy playing with his concrete and steel to notice what he's missing." They laughed together, and something inside me shattered. I cleared my throat. "Well, this is cozy." Emily's scream could have shattered glass. She tumbled off Zach, scrambling for the bedsheet while my brother sat up, his face cycling through shock, guilt, and finally settling on that smug expression I'd grown to hate over the years. "Alex?" Emily stammered, clutching the sheet to her chest. "I can explain." "Can you?" I leaned against the doorframe, surprised by how calm I sounded. Inside, I was a hurricane of rage and betrayal. But outwardly, I might as well have been commenting on the weather, because from where I'm standing, it looks like my wife of 15 years is sleeping with my brother in a hotel room. But please enlighten me about what I'm missing. Zach had the balls to look annoyed. Jesus, Alex, haven't you ever heard of knocking? Haven't you ever heard of not screwing your brother's wife? I shot back. But hey, what do I know? I'm just the guy playing with concrete and steel, right? Emily's face went white. She'd forgotten I was standing right outside the door when she said that. How long? I asked. Alex, please. How long? Emily's voice came out as a whisper. 6 months. 6 months. Half a year of lies. Of her coming home to me with his scent still on her skin. Of family dinners where they'd sit across from each other and share secret smiles while I passed the potatoes. 6 months of me being the biggest fool in Portland. Well, I said, pulling out my phone and snapping a few pictures before they could react. This has been illuminating. Don't worry about checking out. I'll handle the bill. Consider it my wedding gift to you both. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Emily, you might want to check your bank accounts in the morning. I have a feeling you're going to find them surprisingly light. The sound of Emily screaming my name followed me down the hallway, but I didn't look back. I had work to do. By the time I got home, I'd already made 6 phone calls. The first was to our bank, where I explained that I suspected fraudulent activity on our joint accounts and requested an immediate freeze. The second was to my lawyer, Jim Morrison. No relation to the dead rock star, but he could make people's problems disappear just as effectively. The third was to Emily's boss at Meridian Tech, leaving a carefully worded voicemail about concerning personal conduct that might affect her professional responsibilities. The other 3 calls were to various utility companies, credit card companies, and our mortgage lender. Amazing how quickly you can dismantle someone's life when you know all their passwords and have been paying the bills for 15 years. I sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where Emily and I had shared coffee every morning for the past decade and a half, and opened a beer. The house felt different now, contaminated somehow. Every photo on the refrigerator, every shared memory embedded in these walls, all of it was poisoned. My phone buzzed. Emily, Alex, please, we need to talk. I deleted the message without responding. Then another from Zach. Come on, man, let's handle this like adults. Adults, right? Because adults sleep with their sibling spouses in hotel rooms. The front door slammed open at 1:30 a.m. Emily burst in, still wearing the same clothes she'd thrown on at the hotel, her makeup smeared, her hair a mess. Zach slunk in behind her, looking like a dog who'd been caught pissing on the carpet. Alex. Emily's voice was shrill, desperate. You can't just freeze our accounts. I have bills to pay. I took another sip of beer, studying them both. Emily looked frantic, her usual composed facade cracked wide open. Zach kept glancing around like he was planning an escape route. Our accounts, I said mildly. I wasn't aware we still had our anything. I thought you'd moved on to sharing things with Zach here. It was a mistake, Emily said, tears streaming down her face. A stupid, terrible mistake. I love you, Alex. I've always loved you. Funny way of showing it. Zach stepped forward, and I saw the exact moment he decided to play the victim. His shoulders squared, his chin lifted, and that familiar entitled expression slid across his face like a mask. Look, Alex, I know this looks bad. It looks like exactly what it is, I interrupted. It looks like my wife and my brother have been lying to me for 6 months while they slept with each other behind my back. Don't be crude, Zach said, as if he had any right to take the moral high ground. I laughed, and the sound was ugly, even to my own ears. Crude? You want to talk about crude? Let me tell you what's crude, little brother. Crude is finding out your wife has been faking orgasms with you while having real ones with someone else. Crude is realizing that every family barbecue, every holiday dinner, every goddamn birthday party has been a lie because you two couldn't keep your hands off each other. Emily flinched like I'd slapped her. Alex, please. Crude, I continued, warming to the theme, is discovering that the reason my wife suddenly developed a taste for expensive lingerie was because she was modeling it from my own flesh and blood. Tell me, Emily, did you ever wear that red number I found the receipt for? The one that cost $300? Because it sure as hell never made an appearance in our bedroom. Her silence was answer enough. I want a divorce, she whispered. Of course you do. Because now that you've been caught, you want to control the narrative. You want to be the one who leaves, not the one who gets thrown out. Sorry, sweetheart, but you don't get to write this story. Zach had been quiet too long, which meant he was plotting something. Sure enough, he stepped closer. His hands spread in what he probably thought was a reasonable gesture. Alex, we're family. We can work through this. Family. I stood up slowly, and both of them took a step back. I'm not a big man, 5'10", average build, but 15 years of construction work had given me a solid frame and calloused hands. More importantly, I'd grown up scrapping with Zach, and I'd won more fights than I'd lost. You think family is what you were being when you were balls deep in my wife? Jesus, Alex. No, I'm curious about your definition of family, Zach. Because in my book, family doesn't stab each other in the back. Family doesn't lie and cheat and betray the people who love them. Family doesn't sleep with their brother's wife and then have the audacity to ask for understanding. Emily was sobbing now, but I felt nothing. The woman I'd loved was gone, replaced by this stranger who'd been playing a role for months while living a double life. Where are you going to live? I asked conversationally. Because you're not staying here. And since I've frozen the accounts, you can't exactly afford the Grandview's nightly rate. You can't kick me out, Emily said, desperation creeping into her voice. This is my house, too. Actually, it's not. Funny thing about mortgages, they're usually in the name of the person who has the better credit score and the steady job. That would be me. You're welcome to call a lawyer, but I think you'll find that adultery affects property division in Maine, especially when there's photographic evidence. I pulled out my phone and showed them the pictures I'd taken at the hotel. Emily's face went white. You wouldn't, Zach said. Try me. They left 20 minutes later, Emily clutching a hastily packed suitcase, Zach carrying a garbage bag full of her toiletries. I watched from the living room window as they loaded everything into his BMW. The same BMW he'd bragged about buying with his record-breaking sales numbers. The same BMW that was probably going to get repossessed when his wife found out about his extracurricular activities, because Linda Renner was going to find out. I was going to make sure of it. I poured myself another beer and sat down at my computer. If Emily and Zach wanted to play games, I'd show them what a real game looked like. But first, I needed to gather intelligence. Social media is a beautiful thing when you're planning someone's destruction. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. I had more important things to do than supervise concrete pours and argue with subcontractors about deadlines. I started with Emily's Facebook account. She'd always been careless with passwords, using the same combination of her maiden name and birth year for everything. Sure enough, Mitchell 1981 got me right in. What I found there made my blood boil all over again. Posts about girls' nights out that were actually hotel rendezvous with Zach. Check-ins at restaurants where she'd told me she was working late. Photos of expensive jewelry I'd never seen her wear, tagged with heart-eye emojis, and comments from her friend Samantha like, "Someone's being spoiled, lucky girl." But the real gold mine was her private messages. Emily to Samantha 2 weeks ago. Zach bought me the most gorgeous necklace yesterday. I told Alex it was a bonus from work. He's so clueless, Sam. Sometimes I think you wouldn't notice if I brought Zach home and slept with him on the kitchen table. Samantha's response. Be careful, Em. You're playing with fire. Emily. Alex is too boring to ever suspect anything. He comes home, eats dinner, watches his construction shows, and goes to bed at 10 p.m. like clockwork. Zach makes me feel alive again. Boring. 15 years of marriage, of building a life together, of supporting her through grad school and 3 job changes, and I was boring. I screenshotted everything. Next, I checked Zach's Instagram. My brother had always been a social media posting pictures of his cars, his clothes, his expensive dinners. But now I was looking at them with new eyes, and I saw what I'd missed before. There, in the background of a photo from last month's business dinner, was Emily's reflection in the restaurant window. In a picture of his new watch, I could see a woman's hand wearing Emily's wedding ring, reaching for a wine glass. A selfie from his apartment showed Emily's purse on his kitchen counter, partially hidden behind a bottle of champagne. The arrogant bastard had been documenting his affair right under my nose, confident that I was too boring to notice. I was still scrolling through Zach's posts when my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Alex. It's Linda, my sister-in-law, Zach's wife of 12 years, mother of his 2 kids, the woman who'd been as much a victim in this as I was. Linda, I wasn't sure what to say. Did she know? Was she calling to confront me? To beg me not to destroy her marriage? I know, she said quietly. About Zach and Emily. I've known for weeks. Jesus, Linda, I'm sorry. I just found out last night. I hired a private investigator last month. I had my suspicions, but I needed proof. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the pain underneath. I've been waiting for the right moment to act. What are you going to do? I've already done it. I filed for divorce this morning. My lawyer served him the papers an hour ago. I felt a surge of admiration for Linda. While I'd been stumbling around in the dark, she'd been planning and preparing, gathering evidence and building her case. How are the kids? I asked. They don't know yet, but they will soon because I'm taking them to my mother's in Boston tonight. I wanted to call you first, though, to warn you. Warn me about what? Zach's going to come after you. He's already blaming you for everything, saying, you must have told me about the affair. He's furious, Alex, and when Zach gets furious, he gets stupid. As if on cue, my front door exploded inward. The deadbolt held, but the frame splintered, and Zach came charging through like a linebacker, his face purple with rage. You jerk! He screamed. You ruined my life! I hung up on Linda and stood slowly, keeping the kitchen island between us. Zach looked like hell. Unshaven, his expensive suit wrinkled, his usually perfect hair sticking up at odd angles. I ruined your life, I said calmly. That's interesting, because from where I stand, you ruined your own life the minute you decided to sleep with my wife. Linda left me. She took my kids. Good for her. She deserves better than a cheating piece of... Zach lunged around the island, but I was ready for him. I grabbed the cast iron skillet from the stove and held it like a club. He stopped short, breathing hard. You always thought you were better than me, he snarled. Perfect Alex, with his perfect marriage and his perfect little life. Well, guess what? Your wife came to me because you bored her to tears. She told me you were lousy in bed, that you had no passion, no fire. She said sleeping with you was like sleeping with a corpse. The words hit their target, but I didn't let it show. Instead, I smiled. Is that what she told you? That's funny because last night she was begging me to take her back, crying about how much she loved me, how it was all a mistake. But you know what the really funny part is, Zach? His eyes narrowed. What? She's been telling her friends that you're nothing special either, just a convenient distraction, a way to feel young again before she settled back into her boring marriage with her boring husband. I was making it up, but it sounded plausible, and I could see the doubt creeping into his eyes. "Did you really think you were special? Did you think she actually loved you?" "You're lying." "Am I? Check her phone sometime." "Oh, wait." "You can't because she's not answering your calls anymore, is she? Because now that the secret's out, she doesn't need you. You are just a midlife crisis, little brother. A walking cliché with a nice car and a gym membership." Zach's face went from purple to white. I'd hit a nerve. "Where is she?" he demanded. "How the hell should I know? She's not my problem anymore. She's not answering her phone. I went by her office, but they said she called in sick." Interesting. Emily was avoiding him, too. Maybe she was smarter than I'd given her credit for. Or maybe she was just trying to figure out her next move. "Zach," I said, setting down the skillet, but keeping my distance. "Let me give you some free advice. Go home. Apologize to your wife. Try to salvage what's left of your marriage and your relationship with your kids. Because if you keep coming after me, if you keep trying to blame me for your choices, I will destroy you." He laughed, but it sounded forced. "You destroy me? You're a construction worker, Alex. I'm a successful businessman. Thought I have connections, influence. You had those things. Past tense. Because by tomorrow morning, everyone in this city is going to know exactly what kind of man you are. Your clients, your employees, your neighbors, your kids, teachers, everyone." The color drained from his face. "You wouldn't try me." He left without another word, but I knew this wasn't over. Zach had always been the type to escalate rather than back down, and now he had nothing left to lose. I spent the rest of the day making copies of everything I'd found online, organizing it into neat folders with timestamps and screenshots. Then I started making a list of everyone who needed to know the truth about Emily and Zach, starting with their employers. Thursday morning, I put on my best suit, the charcoal gray one Emily had bought me for her company Christmas party last year, and drove to Meridian Tech's offices downtown. The building was all glass and steel, the kind of modern architecture that looked impressive, but felt cold. Just like Emily, I thought. I'd called ahead and scheduled a meeting with David Chen, the VP of Human Resources and Emily's direct supervisor. I'd met him a few times at company events, and he'd always struck me as a straight shooter, the kind of guy who took ethics seriously. "Alex," David said, standing up from behind his desk as his assistant showed me in. "Good to see you, though I have to admit, I'm curious about why you wanted to meet. Is everything okay with Emily? She called in sick yesterday and today." "That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about," I said, settling into the leather chair across from his desk. "I think there are some things you need to know about Emily's recent behavior." David's expression grew serious. "I'm listening." I opened my briefcase and pulled out a manila folder. 2 days ago, I discovered that my wife has been having an affair with my brother for the past 6 months. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here because I found evidence that she's been using company time and resources to facilitate this relationship. David's face went pale. "Alex, I'm not sure this is appropriate." "Please," I said, sliding the folder across his desk. "Just look at the evidence." He opened it reluctantly, and I watched his expression change as he flipped through the pages. Credit card statements showing hotel charges during work hours. Screenshots of Emily's calendar showing client meetings that never happened. Photos from Zach's social media showing them together during times when she was supposed to be in the office. "This is from last Tuesday," I said, pointing to a particular photo. Emily told me she was in an all-day budget meeting, but there she is, having lunch with Zach at that new steakhouse on Commercial Street. The timestamp shows 1:30 p.m. David studied the photo, his jaw tightening. "I remember this meeting. Emily said she had food poisoning and had to leave early. And here," I continued, flipping to another page, "are her company credit card charges. 3 separate hotel rooms over the past month, all built as client entertainment. But I called the hotels. No business meetings were held in those rooms. Just my wife and my brother. Jesus, David muttered. There's more. Emily's been using her company email to coordinate these meetings. She's been lying to clients about her availability, missing important deadlines, and generally neglecting her responsibilities. I'm not a lawyer, David, but I'm pretty sure this constitutes fraud. David closed the folder and leaned back in his chair. Alex, I appreciate you bringing this to my attention, but I have to ask, why are you doing this? I mean, I understand you're hurt and angry, but destroying Emily's career won't save your marriage. My marriage is already over, I said simply. But Emily works in HR. She has access to sensitive employee information, company policies, hiring decisions. She's been compromised, David. What happens when she decides she needs money for a good divorce lawyer? What happens when she realizes she could sell company secrets to competitors? Can you really trust someone who's been lying to everyone around her for 6 months? He was quiet for a long moment, staring out the window at the city skyline. Finally, he sighed. I'll need to investigate this thoroughly. Emily will be suspended pending a full review. I understand. And David, I'm sorry it came to this. I know Emily's been a good employee in the past. She has. That's what makes this so disappointing. I left Meridian Tech feeling oddly empty. There was no satisfaction in destroying Emily's career, just a grim sense of necessity. She'd made her choices, and now she had to live with the consequences. My next stop was Henner Luxury Motors, Zach's car dealership on the other side of town. Unlike Emily, I couldn't just walk into Zach's workplace and demand a meeting with his boss. Zach owned the dealership, inherited from our father, along with a trust fund that had set him up for life. But he did have business partners, investors, and a loan from Portland First National that kept the operation running. More importantly, he had customers. Wealthy customers who valued discretion and respectability above all else. I parked across the street from the dealership and studied the building. It was all chrome and glass, with luxury cars gleaming under the showroom lights. A banner across the front advertised Henner Family Values and 3 generations of trust. Perfect. I walked into the showroom and was immediately approached by a young salesman with perfectly styled hair and a practiced smile. Good afternoon, sir. I'm Brad. Are you looking for anything in particular today? Actually, I'm looking for Zach Renner. I'm his brother. Brad's smile faltered slightly. Oh, Mr. Renner is unavailable at the moment. Is there something I can help you with? Interesting. Either Zach was hiding or he was dealing with other fallout from his imploding personal life. That's okay, I said. I'm actually more interested in talking to your customers. See, I've got some information about the Renner family values that I think they'd find very interesting. Brad went white. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Of course. But first, let me ask you something. How do you think your customers would react if they found out that Zach Renner has been cheating on his wife with his brother's spouse? Do you think that fits with the family values image you're selling? Sir, I mean, these are expensive cars. Your customers are paying premium prices because they trust the Renner name. But what happens when they find out that name is associated with adultery, lies, and betrayal? Think that might hurt sales? Brad was frantically looking around for help, but the showroom was mostly empty. A middle-aged couple was examining a Mercedes in the corner, and an older man in an expensive suit was talking to another salesman near the back. I raised my voice slightly. I'd hate for word to get out that Zach Renner can't even be trusted to honor his marriage vows. Makes you wonder what other commitments he might be willing to break. The couple by the Mercedes looked over, their expressions curious. The older man had stopped talking to the salesman and was openly staring at us. Security! Brad called out desperately. Don't bother, I said, pulling out my phone. I'm leaving, but I'll be back, and next time I'll bring pictures. I walked out of the dealership feeling much more satisfied than I had leaving Emily's office. Zach's business depended on his reputation, and I'd just planted the first seeds of doubt. By tomorrow, half of Portland would be talking about the Renner family scandal. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. Friday morning brought a text message from Emily. "Alex, please, we need to talk. I'm staying at the Eastland Park Hotel, room 237. I love you." I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. Love. She kept using that word, but I don't think it meant what she thought it meant. My phone rang. Jim Morrison, my lawyer. "Alex, we need to talk. Emily's hired Patricia Vance." I knew the name. Vance was Portland's most ruthless divorce attorney, the woman who'd taken down 3 city councilmen and a state senator in various high-profile cases. "She's going for the throat," Jim continued, claiming emotional abuse, financial manipulation, the works. "She's painting you as a controlling husband who drove Emily into the arms of another man." And you know it. I know it. But proving it in court is another matter. Patricia's good at what she does, and she's already filed for emergency spousal support. Emily's claiming you've left her destitute. I laughed bitterly. Destitute? She's staying at the Eastland Park. That's $300 a night. Can you prove she's paying for it herself? Good question. I'll find out. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen and tried to think. Emily was escalating, bringing in the big guns, trying to control the narrative before I could destroy her completely. She was smarter than I'd given her credit for, but she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated how much I knew about her life. I opened my laptop and logged into Emily's email account again. Sure enough, there was a confirmation from the Eastland Park Hotel. Room 237, paid for with a credit card I didn't recognize. I dug deeper and found the application for the card submitted 3 weeks ago. Emily had been planning her exit strategy for a while, building up secret resources for exactly this situation. But the credit card application required employment verification, and she'd listed Meridian Tech Check as her employer with a salary of $95,000 per year, a salary she no longer had as of yesterday. I picked up my phone and called the credit card company's fraud department. "Yes, I'd like to report suspected identity theft. Someone has opened an account using my wife's name and employment information, but she's recently been terminated from her job for cause." It took 20 minutes, but by the end of the call, Emily's new credit card was frozen pending investigation. Her hotel bill was about to become a very big problem. Next, I called Samantha Pierce, Emily's best friend and biggest enabler. Sam worked as a real estate agent and had been covering for Emily's affair from the beginning. It was time she faced some consequences, too. "Alex." Sam sounded nervous when she answered. "I heard about. Emily told me that she's been sleeping with my brother for 6 months while you helped her cover it up." Silence. "Sam, I need you to understand something. I have screenshots of every text message, every email, every social media post where you helped Emily lie to me. I know about the fake girls' nights, the cover stories, all of it." "Alex, I never meant—" "I don't care what you meant. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to call Emily right now and tell her that you can't help her anymore. You're going to stop covering for her, stop lying for her, and stop enabling her. Because if you don't, I'm going to send copies of those messages to your husband, your boss, and every client you've ever worked with." "You can't do that." "Watch me. You've got 1 hour. Sam, make the call." I hung up and immediately started working on my masterpiece, a comprehensive social media post that would destroy both Emily and Zach in one devastating blow. I'd been thinking about this for 2 days, crafting it in my head, editing and refining until it was perfect. It needed to be factual, devastating, and impossible to ignore. Most importantly, it needed to be public. I opened Facebook and began typing. "Friends and family, I need to share something difficult with all of you. 2 days ago, I discovered that my wife Emily and my brother Zach have been having an affair for the past 6 months. I found them together in a hotel room, and since then, I've uncovered evidence of extensive lies, financial deception, and betrayal that goes far deeper than just adultery. Emily has been using company time and resources to facilitate this affair, lying to her employer and clients while conducting her personal business on their dime. She's been stealing money from our joint accounts to pay for hotel rooms and gifts for her lover. She's been lying to our friends and family, using people like Samantha Pierce to provide alibis for her deception. Zach has been equally deceptive, carrying on this affair while married to Linda and father to 2 young children. He's been posting evidence of the affair on his social media accounts, arrogant enough to believe that no one would notice or care. I'm sharing this not for sympathy, but for transparency. Many of you have been unknowingly complicit in their lies, and you deserve to know the truth. Emily and Zach have shown a complete disregard for the people who love them, and I won't be part of covering up their behavior anymore. To those who knew and said nothing, I understand you were in a difficult position. But silence in the face of betrayal is its own form of betrayal. To Emily and Zach, you made your choices. Now live with the consequences. I attached the most damning photos and screenshots, the ones that told the story without being too explicit, and hovered my cursor over the post button. This was it, the nuclear option. Once I posted this, there would be no going back. Emily and Zach would be social pariah, their reputations destroyed, their relationships with friends and family permanently damaged. I clicked post. Within minutes, the comments started pouring in. Shock, support, anger, disbelief. I watched the post get shared and reshared, spreading through our social circles like wildfire. My phone started ringing constantly. Friends, family members, co-workers, all wanting to know more details or offer support. I turned off the phone and went for a walk. When I came back 2 hours later, my Facebook post had been shared over 100 times. Emily's phone number was public knowledge, and according to several comments, people were calling her to express their disgust. Zach's dealership had been flooded with negative reviews, and someone had posted photos of his building with "cheater" spray painted across the front windows. I felt a moment of satisfaction, followed immediately by exhaustion. This was what justice looked like in the social media age: swift, brutal, and absolute. But it didn't make me feel any better about losing my marriage or my brother. My doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw Linda standing on my front porch holding a bottle of wine. "I brought reinforcements," she said when I opened the door. I figured we could both use a drink. We sat in my living room sharing the wine and comparing war stories. Linda had seen my Facebook post and approved wholeheartedly. "I've been getting calls all day," she said. "Friends, neighbors, even my mother-in-law. Everyone's horrified. Zach's been trying to reach me, but I blocked his number." "How are you holding up?" "Better than I expected. I think I've been grieving this marriage for months without realizing it. Finding out about the affair was almost a relief. It gave me permission to stop trying to save something that was already dead." We drank in comfortable silence for a while. 2 casualties of the same war, finding solace in shared experience. "What happens now?" Linda asked. "I honestly don't know. The divorce will be messy, but Jim thinks we can get through it. Emily's hired Patricia Vance, but her case got a lot weaker when she lost her job." She lost her job? I filled Linda in on my visit to Meridian Tech. She listened with growing amazement. "Alex, you've destroyed them both in 3 days. Their careers, their reputations, their social standing. It's all gone." "Good," I said, and meant it. "They destroyed my marriage, your marriage, and their own children's sense of security. Turnabout is fair play." Linda raised her wine glass. "To turnabout, to turnabout." We clinked glasses, and for the first time in days, I felt something approaching peace. Saturday morning brought chaos. I woke up to find 17 missed calls, 43 text messages, and my front yard full of reporters. Apparently, my Facebook post had gone viral beyond Portland, picked up by several gossip blogs and local news stations. The story had everything they loved: adultery, betrayal, family drama, and social media revenge. I made coffee and watched through my kitchen window as a blonde reporter practiced her stand-up in front of my house. "This quiet Portland neighborhood has become the center of a social media firestorm," she was saying into her microphone. A construction worker's Facebook post about his wife's affair has sparked a citywide conversation about infidelity, revenge, and the power of social media. My phone rang. Emily. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Alex, you have to make this stop." Her voice was raw, desperate. "There are reporters outside my hotel. My parents are getting calls. My sister's kids are being harassed at school because their last name is Mitchell." "I didn't start this, Emily. I just told the truth." "You destroyed my life." "No, you destroyed your life. I just made sure everyone knew about it." "Please," she whispered. "I know I hurt you. I know I made terrible choices, but this is too much. I can't even leave my hotel room." For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered the sound of her laughing with Zach about how boring I was, how she'd said I wouldn't notice if she brought him home and slept with him on our kitchen table. "You should have thought about the consequences before you decided to cheat." "I said actions have consequences, Emily. You taught me that." "I never taught you to be cruel." "No, you taught me that by example." I hung up and turned off my phone. The reporters eventually got bored and left, but the internet was just getting started. Someone had created a hashtag conference room key, referencing Emily's supposed work conferences that were actually hotel meetups. Memes were spreading, think pieces were being written, and Emily and Zach had become the poster children for modern adultery. Sunday brought a new development. I was in my garage trying to distract myself by organizing my tools when Victor Kowalski showed up. "Hey, Alex, how you holding up?" "I've been better." "What brings you by?" Victor looked uncomfortable. "I need to tell you something about that night at the hotel. Something I didn't mention before." I set down the wrench I'd been holding. "What?" "Emily and Zach. They weren't alone." My blood went cold. "What do you mean?" "There was someone else there in the room. When I first responded to the noise complaint, I saw 3 people through the security monitor: Emily, Zach, and someone else." "Who?" "I don't know. They were gone by the time I got upstairs. But Alex, I think they were filming." The implications hit me like a sledgehammer. Filming what? "The whole thing. Emily and Zach, their conversation about you, everything. I think someone was making an intimate tape." I felt sick. "Do you have any idea who it was?" "I've been going through the hotel security footage from that night. There's a guy who shows up on the elevator camera about an hour before you arrived. Tall, dark hair, expensive suit. He had a professional camera bag." Victor pulled out his phone and showed me a screenshot from the security footage. The image was grainy, but I could make out a man in his 30s, well-dressed, carrying what looked like professional photography equipment. "I think Emily and Zach were planning to blackmail you," Victor said quietly. "I think they were going to record themselves talking about how pathetic you were, maybe even film themselves having intimacy, and then use it to humiliate you, or force you into a favorable divorce settlement." The pieces were starting to fall into place. Emily's sudden interest in expensive lingerie, Zach's increasingly arrogant behavior, the secret credit card, the carefully planned conferences, the way they'd both seemed so confident that they could control the situation even after being caught. They hadn't just been having an affair, they'd been planning to destroy me. "There's more." Victor said, "I ran the guy's face through our facial recognition software. His name is Marcus Webb, and he's a private investigator who specializes in divorce cases. Specifically, he helps cheating spouses gather evidence against their partners." Evidence of what? Abuse, usually. Emotional manipulation, financial control, anything that can be used to paint the faithful spouse as the real villain. Emily hired him to build a case against you, Alex. She was going to claim you were abusive, controlling, maybe even violent. The affair with Zach was just a distraction. The real plan was to make you look like a monster. I sat down heavily on my workbench, my mind reeling. Emily hadn't just betrayed me. She'd been planning to frame me. If I hadn't discovered the affair when I did, if I hadn't acted quickly to freeze the accounts and gather evidence, I could have ended up divorced, broke, and branded as an abuser. "Do you have proof of this?" I asked. Victor nodded. "Webb's been sloppy. He's been using the hotel's Wi-Fi to upload files to a cloud server. Our IT guy was able to trace the uploads and get into his account. Alex, there are hours of recordings. Emily and Zach talking about you, planning their strategy, even practicing their victim statements. Can you get me copies?" "Already done. Victor handed me a flash drive. Everything's on there." "But, Alex, some of this is hard to watch. They say things about you that, well, they're not kind." I pocketed the flash drive. "Thanks, Vic. I owe you." "You don't owe me anything. Just promise me you'll be smart about this. Don't do anything stupid." After Victor left, I sat in my garage for a long time, staring at the flash drive. Part of me didn't want to know what was on it. Part of me wanted to throw it away and pretend this conversation had never happened. But I needed to know the truth. All of it. I went inside and plugged the drive into my laptop. The first file was dated 3 months ago. Emily and Zach were in what looked like a hotel room, sitting on a bed, talking to someone off camera. "The key is to establish a pattern of controlling behavior," Emily was saying. "Alex has always been possessive, always wanting to know where I am and what I'm doing. We just need to frame that as abusive rather than caring." "What about physical evidence? The voice belonged to Marcus Webb, the private investigator." "That's where I come in," Zach said, grinning at the camera. "I've been working out, getting in shape. If it comes down to it, I can rough myself up a little." "Claim Alex attacked me when he found out about the affair." Emily laughed. "Perfect. The jealous, violent husband attacking his own brother. That plays well in court." I fast-forwarded through several more files, each one more damning than the last. They discussed forging evidence, coaching witnesses, even planting drugs in my truck to make me look unstable. The final file was from last week, just days before I discovered them at the hotel. "I'm getting tired of this charade," Emily was saying. "Living with Alex, pretending to be a loving wife. It's exhausting. When can we move to the next phase?" "Soon," Webb replied. "I just need a few more recordings of him being controlling. Maybe provoke him into an argument. Get him to raise his voice or make threats." "He never raises his voice," Emily said dismissively. "He's too boring for that. Alex thinks conflict is something you avoid, not something you win." Zach leaned forward. "What if we stage something? Make it look like he hit you?" Emily considered this. "It would have to be believable. Alex has never laid a hand on me in 15 years of marriage." "That's what makeup is for," Webb said. "A little creative bruising, some tears, a call to 911. By the time the truth comes out, the damage will be done." I closed the laptop, my hands shaking with rage. They hadn't just been planning to divorce me. They'd been planning to frame me for domestic violence. Emily was prepared to lie under oath to destroy my reputation and possibly send me to jail. Also, she could run off with my brother and take half of everything I'd worked for. I thought about calling Jim Morrison, my lawyer, but it was Sunday evening, and this could wait until morning. Instead, I poured myself a drink and tried to process what I'd learned. Emily wasn't just an unfaithful wife. She was a sociopath who'd been planning to destroy me for months. Everything I'd thought I knew about our marriage, about her character, about the woman I'd loved for 15 years, was a lie. But now I had the proof. Now I knew exactly what kind of person I was dealing with. And now I could plan accordingly. Monday morning, I called Jim Morrison and asked him to meet me at his office immediately. When I showed him the recordings, his face went white. Jesus Christ, Alex. This is conspiracy to commit perjury, fraud, maybe even attempted extortion. Emily could go to prison for this. What do we do? We take this to the district attorney. This isn't just a divorce case anymore. It's criminal. But first, I had one more move to make. I called Emily's hotel and asked to be connected to room 237. Alex, she sounded surprised. I didn't think you were taking my calls. I want to meet to talk about a settlement. There was a long pause. Really? Really? I'm tired of fighting, Emily. This whole thing has gotten out of hand. Maybe we can work something out that's fair to both of us. Where do you want to meet? Somewhere neutral? How about the conference room at the Grandview Hotel? The same hotel where this all started. That seems fitting. Okay, she said slowly. When? This afternoon, 2 o'clock. And Emily, bring Zach. If we're going to settle this, everyone needs to be there. After I hung up, I called Marcus Webb's office and left a message saying I was ready to discuss a mutually beneficial arrangement regarding my divorce. I gave him the same meeting details. Then I called Victor and asked for one more favor. At 1:45 p.m., I walked into the Grandview Hotel's conference room. It was a small, windowless space with a long table and 8 chairs, the kind of room where business deals were made and broken every day. Victor had set up a small camera in the corner, hidden behind a fake plant. Emily arrived first, looking nervous but hopeful. She'd dressed carefully. A conservative blue suit, minimal makeup, her hair pulled back in a professional style. She was playing the role of the repentant wife, ready to negotiate a reasonable settlement. Alex, she said, standing up as I entered, thank you for doing this. I know it can't be easy. It's not, I said, taking a seat across from her, but I think it's time we acted like adults. Zach arrived 5 minutes later, followed closely by Marcus Webb. Webb was exactly what I'd expected. Tall, well-dressed, with the kind of practiced charm that made people trust him right up until he destroyed their lives. Mr. Henner, Webb said, extending his hand. Marcus Webb, I represent your wife's interests in this matter. I shook his hand, noting the expensive watch and the camera bag slung over his shoulder. Pleasure to meet you, though. I have to say I'm surprised Emily felt she needed a private investigator for a simple divorce. Webb's smile flickered slightly. Just being thorough. Divorce can be complicated. It certainly can, I agreed, especially when people aren't honest about their intentions. Emily leaned forward. Alex, I want you to know how sorry I am about everything. The affair, the lies, the way I've treated you. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm hoping we can find a way to move forward that doesn't destroy both of our lives. She was good. I had to give her that. If I hadn't seen the recordings, I might have actually believed her. That's very generous of you, Emily. But before we talk about moving forward, I think we need to address the past, specifically the plans you've been making for the past 3 months. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Emily's face went pale. Zach shifted uncomfortably in his chair, and Webb's hand moved instinctively toward his camera bag. I'm not sure what you mean, Emily said carefully. I think you do. I pulled out my laptop and set it on the table. You see, I've been doing some investigating of my own, and I've discovered some very interesting things about what you 3 have been planning. I opened the first video file and turned the screen toward them. Their own voices filled the room, discussing how to frame me for abuse, how to forge evidence, how to destroy my life, and take everything I'd worked for. Emily's face went from pale to gray. Zach looked like he was going to vomit. Webb was already reaching for his phone, probably to call his lawyer. "This is illegal," Webb said. "You can't record people without their consent." "You're right," I said calmly. "Good thing I didn't record this." "You did. And then you stored it on a cloud server using the hotel's Wi-Fi network." Victor Kowalski, the head of security here, was able to access those files as part of his investigation into suspicious activity on the hotel's network. Webb's hand froze halfway to his phone. "Now," I continued, "let's talk about what's going to happen next. Emily, you're going to withdraw your divorce petition and agree to a settlement that gives you exactly nothing. No alimony, no property division, nothing. In exchange, I won't press charges for conspiracy, fraud, and attempted perjury." "You can't prove," Emily started. "I can prove everything. I have hours of recordings, financial records, email communications, the works. But more importantly, I have Marcus here on tape admitting to his role in this conspiracy. I'm betting the Maine State Bar would be very interested to know that a licensed private investigator has been helping clients commit perjury." Webb went white now. "Wait just a minute." "No, you wait." I stood up, towering over the table. "You three plan to destroy my life, to frame me for crimes I didn't commit, to send me to prison so you could steal everything I've worked for. You were going to lie under oath, forge evidence, and commit fraud. And you were stupid enough to record yourselves planning it." Emily started crying, but they were tears of fear, not remorse. "Alex, please. I never meant for it to go this far. Marcus convinced me." "Don't," I said sharply. "Don't you dare try to blame him. You were an active participant in every discussion, every plan, every lie. You were going to let me go to prison for domestic violence, Emily. You were going to destroy my reputation, my career, my life, and you were going to enjoy every minute of it." Zach finally found his voice. "What do you want?" "I want you gone. All of you. Emily, you're going to sign whatever divorce papers my lawyer puts in front of you, and then you're going to leave Portland forever. Zach, you're going to sell your dealership and move somewhere far away from here. And Marcus, you're going to surrender your license and find a new career, because if I ever see you in this city again, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you are." "And if we don't agree?" Webb asked. I smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. "Then I release these recordings to the police, the district attorney, the State Bar Association, and every news outlet in Maine. You'll all be facing criminal charges, and Emily and Zach will be the most hated people in New England." The room was silent, except for the sound of Emily's quiet sobbing. "I need an answer," I said. "Right now." Emily looked at Zach, then at Webb, then back at me. "What about my things? My clothes, my personal items?" "You can collect them tomorrow with a police escort. You have 1 hour. My car is in both our names. I'll sign it over to you. Consider it a going-away present." Zach leaned forward. "Alex, we're family." "No," I said flatly. "We were family. Now you're just strangers who happen to share the same parents. Strangers who tried to destroy my life." Emily wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders. For a moment, I saw a flash of the woman I'd married, the one who'd been strong and independent and capable of making hard decisions. "Fine," she said quietly. "I'll sign your papers. But Alex, you're not the man I thought I married." "The Alex I fell in love with would never have been this cruel." "You're right. I said the Alex you married was naive enough to trust people who didn't deserve it. But you killed that man the day you decided to betray him. What you're seeing now is what's left." They filed out of the conference room one by one, their grand conspiracy reduced to ash and bitter words. Webb didn't even look back. Zach paused at the door as if he wanted to say something, but apparently thought better of it. Emily was the last to leave. She stopped in the doorway and turned back to me. "I did love you," she said softly. "At the beginning, anyway. Before everything got so complicated." "I know," I said. "That's what makes this so much worse." After they were gone, I sat alone in the conference room for a long time, staring at my laptop screen. The recordings were still there, digital evidence of a betrayal so complete it had taken my breath away. Victor knocked on the door and stuck his head in. "How'd it go?" "It's over," I said. "They agreed to everything." "Good. You did the right thing, Alex." "Did I? Sometimes I feel like I became someone I don't recognize." Victor sat down across from me. "You protected yourself. They were planning to destroy you, and you stopped them. That's not cruelty. That's survival." Maybe he was right. Maybe I had just been protecting myself. But as I packed up my laptop and left the hotel, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd lost something important in that conference room. Not just my marriage or my brother, but some essential part of myself. The part that believed in forgiveness, in second chances, in the possibility that people could change. That man was gone now, replaced by someone harder, more cynical, more willing to fight fire with fire. I wasn't sure if that was a victory or a defeat. Dreyer's epilogue. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized on a rainy Thursday in November. Emily signed the papers without argument and left Portland the same day, driving south in the Honda Civic I'd signed over to her. I heard from Linda that she'd moved to Florida, where she was working as a temp while trying to rebuild her career. Zach sold his dealership to a competitor for about half what it was worth and moved to Arizona. Linda got the house, full custody of the kids, and a generous alimony settlement. She sent me a Christmas card with a photo of her and the children at Disney World, all of them smiling. Marcus Webb's private investigator license was revoked after I submitted the recordings to the state licensing board. Last I heard, he was working as a security guard at a shopping mall in Bangor. As for me, I kept the house and went back to my job at Hartwell Construction. My coworkers were supportive. My boss gave me all the time off I needed to deal with the legal proceedings, and life slowly returned to something resembling normal. But normal wasn't the same as before. I found myself more suspicious of people's motives, more guarded with my trust, more willing to assume the worst rather than hope for the best. The naive optimist who'd believed in the fundamental goodness of people was gone, replaced by someone who understood that betrayal could come from anywhere, even from the people you loved most. I went on a few dates, but nothing serious. It was hard to open up to someone new when you'd been so thoroughly deceived by someone you'd known for 15 years. Trust, once broken, was difficult to rebuild. On a cold February evening, I was working late in my garage when my doorbell rang. I opened it to find a young woman in her 20s, well-dressed but nervous, holding a manila envelope. "Mr. Henner, my name is Jessica Webb. Marcus Webb was my father." My blood went cold. "What do you want?" "I wanted to apologize," she said quickly, "for what he did to you, and to give you this." She handed me the envelope. Inside were copies of additional recordings, ones I'd never seen before. "After his license was revoked, my father had a breakdown," Jessica explained. "He started drinking heavily, lost his apartment, ended up living in his car. He called me a few weeks ago, said he had something he needed to give me before he died." Died? Heart attack last month. But before he passed, he told me about what he'd done to you and your wife. He said it was the worst thing he'd ever been part of, and he wanted to make amends. I looked through the recordings. They were from earlier in the conspiracy, showing Emily and Zach discussing their plans in even more detail. In one particularly damning conversation, Emily talked about how she'd never loved me, how she'd only married me because I was stable and boring, and would provide the security she needed while she figured out what she really wanted. "Why are you giving me these?" I asked. Jessica shifted uncomfortably. "Because my father said you deserve to know the whole truth. And because I think you showed remarkable restraint in how you handled the situation." A lot of people would have tried to destroy them completely. After she left, I sat in my living room and watched the new recordings. They were even worse than the ones I'd seen before, full of casual cruelty and calculated manipulation. Emily hadn't just been planning to betray me. She'd been planning it for years, waiting for the right moment to escape a marriage she'd never wanted. But instead of feeling angry, I felt something unexpected. Relief. For months, I'd been questioning myself, wondering if I'd been too harsh, if I'd destroyed Emily and Zach out of spite rather than justice. But these recordings confirmed what I'd suspected all along. They weren't victims of their own bad choices. They were predators who'd been planning to destroy me from the beginning. I'd done the right thing. I'd protected myself from people who would have ruined my life without a second thought. And while the process had changed me, made me harder and more cynical, it had also made me stronger. I was no longer the naive, trusting man who'd believed that love and loyalty were enough to protect him from betrayal. I was someone who understood that sometimes you had to fight for what was yours, even if it meant becoming someone you didn't entirely recognize. That night, I built a fire in my fireplace and fed the recordings into the flames, one by one. I watched Emily's image dissolve into smoke and ash, along with her voice, her lies, and her plans to destroy me. When the last recording was burned, I poured myself a drink and raised it in a toast to the empty room. "To new beginnings," I said aloud, "and to never being that naive again." Outside, snow was beginning to fall, covering Portland in a blanket of white. It was beautiful and clean, a fresh start for a city that had seen too much drama and betrayal. I finished my drink and went to bed, sleeping soundly for the first time in months.